Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well this week. This is my week 2 presentation on market failures, workplace safety. Quick overview on the material I'll be covering in my presentation. A quick description on what a market failure is. For my example, I'll be going over the Industrial Revolution through the mid-20th century workforce in the United States. So increased productivity, but at what costs? And specifically the lack of work safety standards during that time period, which resulted in very high injury rates and high death rates in the workforce, which then involved the federal government having to intervene and actually put in place workplace safety regulations and the establishment of OSHA. So what is a market failure? As we learned in last week's readings, the United States is a mixed economy, meaning that both the public and private sectors play a role in the economy, although most people would agree that it's best for the public sector to play a minimal role in the economy when possible and allow the private sector to take the majority lead in the free market of the economy. In this week's reading, we learned that the United States is a Pareto efficient economy, meaning that the resource allocations can be moved around and used to make someone better off at the expense of making someone else worse off. And every competitive economy is a Pareto efficient economy. And it's when these markets or economies are no longer Pareto efficient that they are considered market failures. And there are 6 basic market failures that we learned about in our textbook. And for my example, I'll be focusing a little bit on externalities and imperfect information. For my market failure, I chose workplace safety. So looking at the Industrial Revolution through the mid-20th century, we saw an increase in productivity, a larger workforce, new technologies being implemented in factories, and which all these gave rise to the middle class. While all this progress and productivity was good for the economy and nation as a whole, the private sector and also the public sector during this time turned a blind eye to workplace safety. And during this time period, there is high rates of injury at the workplace and also high death rates at the workplace. And while these high injury and death rates were well known to employers and organizations, there was really no incentive, monetary incentive, to implement any workplace safety standards or regulations for their employees. Workplace injuries and death rates got so bad that the federal government finally decided to step in and intervene, and in 1970 passed the Occupational Safety and Health Act, which led to the establishment of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration in 1971. With OSHA in place, it was now there were now standard workplace safety regulations that had to be followed across the board in all the states, and all employers had to comply with. The new regulations obligated employers to properly equip their employees with proper personal protective equipment, PPE, to protect themselves from any hazards that they might encounter in their workplace, and also led to the right to know regulation, which forced employers to openly disclose and share information on any known hazardous chemicals or conditions that the employees might be exposed to at work. And these regulations also provided employees with legal protection on not being legal protection against getting fired for asking questions on certain hazardous chemicals or hazardous conditions in the workplace. So they were able to now ask questions and not live in fear of retaliation or possible termination for their questioning on their work environment. And some quick statistics to show how big of an impact the OSHA regulations benefited the working class. In 1970, prior to the establishment of OSHA, there were 14,000 deaths on the job. And in 2016, there was only 5,190 workers killed on the job. And to consider, there's way more employees and people working in 2016 versus the population in 1970. But yeah, here's a list of my references that I used for my presentation. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and looking forward to looking at all your guys' presentations.